The revelations in that Mueller report do not necessarily paint, shall we say, a glowing picture of this administration. Joining me now is Barbara Rest, former executive vice president of the Trump Organization. She, of course, wrote the book, All Alone on the 68th Floor, How One Woman Changed the Face of Construction. In part, the book is about her time inside the Trump Organization. You work for this president. You know him well, Barbara. What revelations in the Mueller report would likely get under his skin the most?
You know, I think probably him saying, I'm effed. I never heard him say that. I've heard him say we're effed. But I mean, for him to admit that his presidency is over, that's pretty amazing to me. I think that's very compelling. I don't think he'd want people to know he said that.
Hey, well, it's also not something that typically innocent people say. it's if you've done nothing wrong, you wouldn't slouch back and say, you know.
Why is it over, Don? Oh, because they're going to get me. I mean, that would be the presumption.
Knowing the kinds of people that the president surrounds himself with, what do you think they're likely telling him today?
It's going to be okay. You didn't do anything. There's no obstruction. There's no collusion. I think they're just going to back up what he's been saying. I don't think he's got anyone with the wherewithal to tell him, look, this is bad and it looks bad for you, and you should downplay it and not write tweets that have BS in it and things like that.
Sarah Sanders this morning responded to the Mueller report saying that she lied about the firing of Jim Comey. Take a listen to what she said.
The president isn't asking people to break the law, isn't asking them to do anything that is dishonest.
So you're saying the president has never asked you to say anything you knew not to be true?
Correct, and he's also never asked me to break the law.
Compare what we heard from Sarah Sanders there to what we read that Don McGahn told the special counsel, that he refused to carry out the order to fire Bob Mueller, and that he also refused to do a bunch of other crazy expletive that the president wanted him to do. How do you square those responses? Can both of those pictures of the president be true?
Well, I think that Sarah sort of showed herself when she admitted that she made up the whole thing about the FBI being disappointed in Comey and people being glad that Trump fired him. So she has no credibility whatsoever. Now, McGahn, on the other hand, is consistent, and he didn't do this once. He did it like 3 times where he refused to lie. And it's, to me, I recollect situations like that with Trump where he did ask people to go and do his bidding, and it wasn't true.
One of the takeaways, I mentioned this earlier in the broadcast, for me at least, is the president, while he may have surrounded himself to a certain extent with sycophants, he's got a lot of folks who don't do what he tells them to do, who don't carry out his orders. And one could assume that perhaps these people don't necessarily take the president that seriously, or at least what he says that seriously. Was that your experience with the president? Have people who he would say, hey, I want you to go out and blah, 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 and they would, as soon as he left the room, they would say, the old man's crazy.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't know that they said the old man's crazy, but they said, I'm not going to do it. Absolutely, yes. But, people were different back then. And, a lot of times he told us to do things he knew we wouldn't do, just so he could say to do it. Oh, you didn't do this, but he knew it wouldn't be followed. Nowadays, I don't know.
Barbara Rest, always enjoy having you. Thank you so much.
My pleasure.